2021, and with every year we have New Year's resolutions that we make. And yeah, most of us don't keep those resolutions. So today we'll be talking about goals and resolutions and seeing maybe how we can do it differently this year so that at the end of the year we hit those goals. We are looking for results this year and not just resolutions. And with me, I have a couple of friends. Actually, I have two friends, Natasha and Sam, who will be having a conversation about goals and resolutions and seeing how we can practically maybe set goals and resolutions that we can actually achieve at the end of the year. Yeah, so welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you on as we talk about goals and resolutions, especially right now in January. Everyone, I'm sure people have some form of goals or resolutions they've written. When was the first time you guys ever heard about New Year's resolutions? Natasha.
Okay. For me, honestly, I was so young though. I was probably like 9 years old, and to be honest, I didn't even take them seriously. Yeah, and then with time, I feel like I kind of gave up on the idea of resolutions per se. Yeah, because I kept, having the same resolutions 5 years in a row.
I feel you. How about you, Sam?
I've heard about New Year's resolutions, same case ever since I was young, because the family setup we were in, our parents always used to say, this year we are doing things new, we'll do these things new, and that's when the idea of New Year's resolutions came about.
I think also for me it was around 9, 10. And like Natasha, I had the same resolutions every year. I thought it's just like something people do at the beginning of the year. It's not that serious, so I never also took it seriously. Have you guys set any New Year's resolutions this year?
Well, yes, I have. We were with a team of my friends back in December, and we were just asking each other about the goals, the resolutions we've set. Yeah, and I have three. I have 3 resolutions for this year.
Would you like to share with the audience, or is it like?
Yeah, sure. I have no problem. My resolution number 1 is to grow in my faith. My resolution number 2 is to build on my dating relationship, and number 3 is to build my business.
Yeah. Interesting. What about you? Have you set any this year?
Okay, this year, actually, I think just thinking about, so this year I actually have set one, and just one specific one. It's a bit broad. Mine is to practice what I preach, actually, because I think a lot of us, we have the tendency to have all this knowledge, talk, give such good advice, but then when it comes to you realize I'm not even applying the advice I'm telling other people, so my resolution this year is just to preach what I practice.
Okay. How effective do you think resolutions are? Like keeping your resolution, is that how effective is it?
I think it's important. It might not be as effective, but the starting point is very important. The person who set and didn't achieve is better than the person who didn't set at all. So I think the place of setting a resolution is very important. So you just work towards it. It's progress.
Yeah. Okay, if we set them and we're not achieving them, why should we set them anyway?
That makes sense. Honestly, that reminds me of, I think it was Paul, was it Paul in the Bible? You remember when he asked that question of why do I do what I don't want to do? Something of that sort. Yeah. That's like the type of vibe that question has. And honestly, I think that question in and of itself, you shouldn't even have that mindset. Though you failed, I read this from Think and Grow Rich. It says temporary defeat is not permanent failure, right? It does not equate that. So I think having the mindset of understanding where you failed last year and trying to apply maybe the same goals or different goals, renewing your goals to ensure that this time you make it. At some point you'll get the hang of it, but if you quit and then you just say, what, I never even achieved this anyway, then in that case there is no point in setting the goals.
True. And what would you say the difference between resolutions or New Year's resolutions and goals? Yeah. Is it the same thing or are they different things?
I would say a goal is a target. A goal is where you want to be, and the resolution is the action you take maybe during that year that will get you to your goal. So I would say there's a thin line, yes, but you can distinguish them. So you really can't have a resolution if you don't have a goal, because what are you aiming for? Yeah. So I think.
Okay, what do you think, Natasha?
I think the same thing, because when you ask me about what resolutions I've set, usually I set goals, and in those goals are resolutions embedded in them. So for example, if I want to earn like a large sum of money, then I have a resolution to maybe study for this amount of time to have knowledge or accumulate knowledge to like earn that type of money, right? So that's a resolution embedded in the goal.
Yeah, great stuff, guys. Great stuff. I have nothing to add there. Yeah, I'm learning. So, what has been your experience with setting goals? Like from that young, tender age of hearing about New Year's resolutions, and now, what has been your experience?
I think the experience of setting goals has kept me focused, because when you don't see your destination, any road will take you anywhere and you'll be happy. So I think the setting of goals has helped me become more focused, has focused my energy on one specific area, my time, my resources. So it saves you a lot of energy when setting goals, and you walk down that path.
Okay, so if you were not setting goals, do you feel, how different do you feel your life would be?
Very different, I guess, because you don't have anything you are aiming for, so you're just living, just breathing and living and eating. So setting goals in your various spheres of life gives you something to do, you know, and I think it's an important part in each and everyone's life.
Okay, what has your experience been?
My experience, honestly, setting goals has not, like, I was one of those people who used to float with life, kind of just,
go with the
wherever,
flow.
Exactly, like wherever we go, you know. But then I think last year, 2020, was one of those years where I really had to sit down and rethink because of the quarantine situation. And I think I just came up with like 5 areas of, like 5 failures that usually lead to me not achieving my goals, or to me not achieving what I want to do, right? One of them is definitely procrastination. I think we can all relate.
Yeah. I don't know if people ever overcome procrastination.
Yeah.
Maybe you do it less.
Yeah, exactly. And also just you don't obsess over finding the right time, per se, you know? Yeah. The second thing is definitely self-discipline, because I definitely want to go into like the route of leadership. So I feel like if you can't control yourself, you can't control other people, you know? So that's another area. The third one, I think the most important one, was kind of changing goals, changing decisions, wavering in between. One thing I want to encourage people with is understanding that even if your goals fail, you always have a chance to renew them and set a different plan to get to a certain goal. So, can I use an example in the Bible? Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's fine, yeah. So, in Samuel, I believe David set a goal to, well, he didn't set a goal, but David actually decided to go ahead and fight the lion without God telling him prior to it. Like, oh, it's all good, I got you, don't worry, right? He kind of just went in faith, trusted in God. And how we know that is because he said, the Lord rescued me. You don't rescue someone who already knew everything was going to be okay, right? So it's just understanding that you can set goals and know that God is actually big enough to redirect you in case you don't make a good decision. You get?
Yeah.
So just understanding your God. And if you don't believe in God, honestly, again, just restructure, replan, go back to the drawing board and see where you can go from there.
Yeah, I guess you did give a solid point, because I guess last year in 2020, people did make goals at the beginning of the year. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And I feel like for that, it was a pause for the whole world. And there are some people who did pause and think about their lives and reflect. And then there are people who remained in that pause. Because at the end of the year, I did have people tell me stuff like, it's been a rough year, everyone was on pause, so you don't have to have achieved anything really. So I had people say that to me. And on the other hand, I knew people who did take a pause, did restructure, did replan, and they had achieved so much more. And I definitely, that's why I agree with you that there is that stuff happens. Even if it's not COVID, I'm sure in this new year stuff will happen. And when stuff does happen, I don't think we should throw our goals out the window like, anyway, that happened. So there's really no point in setting goals anyway. It's that being flexible. I think it's flexibility. Flexibility does help a lot in goal setting, so that when stuff does come up, you're able to re-strategize and change routes and think more clearly about maybe how can I achieve it, or if it's not something you can achieve anymore, like what else can I do in place of that. And I guess with that said, if anyone, does anyone want to say anything before we go to the next thing?
I think that's said good enough.
All right. You did talk about something also, self-discipline. I think that's like one of the major goals where people don't even get that far. Most people who set resolutions, I think the most they can go is February.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Some people don't even make it to end of Jan.
You might not even make it to the end of this episode, sadly. Your goal might not make it to the end of this episode. So I think that's why I stopped setting resolutions now. So I don't have resolutions this year. Because they never made it past February. Sometimes even didn't make it past January. And I feel I started now setting goals.
Another thing is resolutions. If you just look up the definition, it's almost like you're setting commandments for yourself, because it's very much don't do this or do this or whatever, right? And then that's like for you to now achieve a certain goal that you have. So you're bound, like trying to restrict yourself like that, you're bound to fail, right? So that's why I'm just trying to tell people, honestly, you fail, you get back up. Resolutions aren't like dead set in stone type of thing. They could always change, but don't waver too much in your decision. Trust yourself.
I totally agree with that. And I'd like to now ask you guys a bit more personally, like how do you set your goals? Maybe.
So I set goals. I've always been told, set the acronym SMART for goals, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So the last part of time-bound really caught me because that's the factor I use most when I'm setting goals. For example, let's say I want to be fit in 1 year. So what I do is, what will it take me for me to be fit in that 1 year, as I break it down into smaller goals. So maybe for the first month, second month, third month, and setting them in terms of time, you are able to, a deadline wakes your brain up because I have to do this, so it keeps you focused. So setting goals with a timeline and, the other factors of the goal really helps you achieve it purposefully.
Okay. What about you?
For me, honestly, I'd have to agree. I didn't know about the SMART thing, but I think I do it without, almost without knowing, Personally, I'm very specific with the time, and I'm also very specific with the amount. So let's say if I'm losing weight, I'll say, okay, this many kgs. If I'm earning money, this amount of money, Maybe, okay, there's some that you can't measure, let's say faith or something like that, but still try and be very specific with your goals. And also that allows you to set a definite plan to achieve your goals. So that's what I like to do in terms of goal setting. Another thing I actually do, like a practice that I love to do, is to write it down and stick it on my mirror. so that it like motivates me to know, okay, today I've woken up, this is my goal, this is my idea, this is my purpose as of now, you know. And then throughout the day, it's kind of in my mind. So that's a tip, I guess, that people could use.
Yeah. I think apart from what you guys have mentioned, what I do a bit differently is that I have different pillars of my life. So I take my life and it's probably different. I have different pillars. I have 6 pillars and I set goals towards those 6 pillars. So I have the fit pillar, that is like when it comes to fitness, health and fitness. There is the people pillar, that's my social life. There's the money pillar, that's my economic life. There's the work pillar, that is my education or any kind of work I'm doing. There is the, which one have I not mentioned? I've said fit, faith, people. There's a faith pillar, that's my spiritual life. And then there's a space pillar, which is my environment. Which I know that sounds like a lot. That's a lot. But I'm a super organized individual. So like, yeah, for me to have those pillars in those different areas of my life ensures that there's no area I'm neglecting. Yeah, so that I ensure that everything that makes up McKenna is being catered for, or I'm working towards being, so that at the end of the year when I'm working or at the beginning of the year when I'm working towards being a better me, I'm looking at every single area of my life and setting goals towards bettering all those areas. So I think that's why it comes in handy for me, and it's not something I came up with. I don't dream about it, or I came up with. I learned it from a community called the Purpose Chasers by Patrice Washington. You can check her out on YouTube. She has a podcast. Definitely check out her podcast. And yeah, by listening to that kind of podcast and seeing how she goes about setting goals, I was inspired by that, and I do that. And also write down my goals. I have like a goal book. Yeah, I have a book specifically for goals. Yes. Yeah, it's that intentional. Yes, yeah. So I am very, like I said, very organized, and I have that book where I write my goals. And I think writing them down, before I never used to write them down, and I realized writing them down, there was a higher chance of me achieving them than when I never wrote them down. But I was not born this way, just to say that. It's been a long journey of, setting goals every year, the same goals every year, to finally changing it a bit and then writing them down and then breaking them into sections. So, guys, we're not saying you have to go all out. Find what works for you.
Yeah.
Find what works for you and just be very intentional, like what has been expressed by all of us. Be very intentional when you're setting those goals. And then, like I said, find what works for you.
True.
So with that said, we want to do a little bit of an exercise. So we're going to have 2 personas, and we're going to try and set goals for them.
Okay.
Yeah, so in our own way, we're going to try and set goals for these 2 personas. So the first one is a male. What do you think we should call him? I did not come up with a name, sadly.